Hmm. So this will need to be,
Starts at 6. 6 p.m.
Oh. You don't have to show us.
Wow,
Jillian.
I'm really impressed with the lighting in the camera.
look at that, all right.
That's really bright. Looks way brighter than it actually is.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Pink.
Aaron, I'm gonna mute mine. Will you try talking into yours?
Yeah. So you guys gotta do the trick, because I don't think there's sound. I don't know how
Testing,
sound works.
1, 2, 3. And I can hear it off that.
Wait, try it again.
Testing. Am I lighting up?
It's coming through here, so we need it to come through the TV.
I think we had trouble with it coming from the TV.
Well.
So let's.
Oh.
Audio ports.
That's funny.
You recall, make a 10.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to do it from your God.
Currently, there's a 60% chance of thunderstorms at 6 p.m. on Wednesday.
Oh,
Oh, I'm gonna say,
We're still a day, I mean.
yeah.
Okay, which one's?
All right, Aaron, will you try that again?
Yeah, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, no, I'm not hearing.
Do I have to be a presenter on the way yours is set up?
No,
No, you're good.
Oh, can you hear me now? There we go.
Why is that?
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order tonight. Tonight.
Remember, it's my computer picking up the mic.
Do you wanna sit here and I'll? No. I like this chair. Welcome everybody to our meeting, our special meeting tonight on July 14th, 2025. I'd like to call our PARAB meeting to order. Tonight we have with us our Aaron Reestead from our planning department and Justin Pietro.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from Davis Partnership. And then tonight we have with us Chris Bro, Tim Brosnahan and Danu self. And Jan Johnson was trying to get on in Zoom.
She's on there.
Oh, good, great. So we have a forum so that we can go ahead and proceed with our meeting. So first order of business would be to approve our agenda. Any one of my members will approve our agenda?
I don't believe I have any additions to anybody else. And I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Then we have our approval of minutes, our draft minutes from our June meeting. Do you want?
I will say that I don't. It's pretty less, so that.
That's okay. You wanna approve the minutes, sir?
I mean, certainly I could, but I actually wasn't there at that meeting, so.
Oh. I wasn't either. Oh, sure. Oops.
Well, could Jan?
Jan, were you at that last meeting in June?
I wasn't there.
You weren't there either. Okay, well, we'll just table that for our next meeting for. Okay. Do we have public comments that are not on the agenda? If not, I'm gonna move on to our next item, E, our presentation of the Hiawatha Gardens update from our planning department and our consultant. Alright, so I'm gonna leave it.
Can everyone hear me? Give me a thumbs up on your Zoom screen if you're able. Thanks. Alrighty. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Erin Ringsred. I'm the project manager on the Hiawatha Gardens project, but I'm also a planner and a landscape architect for the city of Manitou Springs. We're presenting to you guys tonight to get your input on some tree removal that is potentially happening at Hiawatha Gardens. We recently had a tree inventory done, and then the design has progressed to the point where it's more clear what impacts we'll see to the tree canopy there, and we would like to request your feedback. We also, note this property's location adjacent to Memorial Park and would like some input from PARAB as sort of we look at that system. It is important to note that this property will remain, is currently zoned commercial, and we anticipate rezoning it to public facilities and not to parks. But because of its adjacency, we see, some opportunity to get your guys' input on how it can best support Memorial Park with that adjacency. And then also just wanting to always recognize City Council as the final decision maker on projects like this, but we'd like to take your recommendation to them when we present next to Council. We have a couple different members of our team on the line. Oop, if my PowerPoint won't buffer. I want to, I know we've got Justin here in the room with us. I'll let him introduce himself, and then Byron can introduce himself online.
Hi, everybody. Pleased to be with you, Justin DiPietro from Davis Partnership Architects. I lead the landscape architecture department for Davis, and spearheading the kind of site design effort for Hiawatha. I'll turn it over to you, Byron.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for hosting me, everybody. I'm Byron Zick. I'm with Davis Partnership Architects.
1 second, Byron. We're having some audio issues on our end.
Okay, go ahead.
Give that another go, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Turn your way up.
Go for
Great.
it.
Thanks for hosting me tonight, everybody. I'm Byron Zick. I'm an architect with Davis Partnership Architects. And I've been working hand in hand with Justin since the project kickoff a couple of months ago. I'm happy to be a part of the project, and thanks for hosting me.
David, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm David Senko. I work for Artaic Group, and we are helping as the owner's rep for the city.
And Emily with Franson Pittman.
Hello, everybody. Emily Hayter with Friends and Pittman on the estimating pre-con side of this, and then ultimately the construction.
Thanks, guys. We won't get an echo, right?
No, because mine's all my stuff's off.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm going to provide just a quick overview to the project. We have done engagement on Hiawatha Gardens for a very long time. And what we've seen come out of that are these goals here that you see on the screen. Accessibility, transportation, security, creativity, a natural aesthetic, sustainability, rehabilitation, and the design for the future. As part of that, as what we discussed prior, was that with designing for the future, recently there was some information revealed about the floodplain, and that did have some impacts with the site plan that we're looking at here. But as we adjusted the site plan to accommodate the floodplain, we still looked at each of these goals as we are looking at that design and making sure we're vetting it against maintaining these goals that were identified as priorities for the community. We also have a kind of a hierarchy of uses when we want to think about kind of space here, is that and how this fits into our larger systems. This was prepared through the lens of we were looking at the Dillon and the Hiawatha and Creek Walk Trail as a system, and really, how do we differentiate the users between those? And we saw Hiawatha as more of potentially short-term parking that helps better serve the downtown businesses, and you can hop on to one of these multimodal systems we have from Hiawatha to engage with our downtown businesses. In support of that, we also do see this space with the open air pavilion as a community space and the plaza space as community spaces. Again, with that opportunity to support Memorial Park as a community space, and public restrooms. Public restrooms are also very important. As we know, we have porta potties there, and we want to see that become a more permanent facility that looks a lot nicer as you enter the community, as well as I personally see that as a huge asset for the users of Memorial Park. Right now, if you're in Memorial Park, our public restrooms are at City Hall, but for the women's restroom specifically, there's only 2 stalls in there. So having, I think, enhanced facilities and options for families or residents using the park, I think would be a huge asset to that. And then along the bottom, we see different systems that are intersecting through this site with our bike trail, with Creek Walk Trail, looking at pedestrian mobility, both from like a sidewalk perspective, as well as again tying into that Creek Walk Trail as one of the users, Mountain Metro, and then how this fits into our parking system as a city and our approach to try to really reduce vehicular traffic congestion and that sort of circling that people do when they're looking for a spot. So how can we have that enhance that system? On December 3rd, this site plan was what was presented to City Council in terms of vetting our approach to the floodplain, where we went to an open air pavilion, moved the restroom north, detached it from the pavilion to be outside of the floodplain, and you have that parking to the east so that the plaza space, the restrooms, all of that can be oriented to the west, again, in support of Memorial Park. Since that time, we have further developed this concept, still having parking in the same places, but with bringing our new consultant team on, they took another look at kind of that alignment to make sure we're using that space the most effectively, as well as adding our landscape standards from Title 18 of the City Code into this space to make sure we're meeting those as well. Since the December, or prior to the December approval, we did have these existing trees inventoried. The area of focus was along the creek, and you can kind of see that classified there. They did classify the trees by species, and if it's designated as a desirable or undesirable species from its sort of invasive nature, etc. Because it was focused along the creek, and phase 1 has been identified as the parking area to the east and then the restroom arm that comes across the top. We felt additional tree inventory was necessary as we really dug into this design, looking at the pavement profile, etc., trying to dial in that limit of disturbance. And so all of these trees here in green were inventoried. There's a little over 40 trees. They did, I'm not sure if you had much time to review the report, they did group some of our smaller saplings as like one tree as a way of categorizing those, because we have a lot of volunteers.
Area, in fact, when we did our tree survey, I don't remember what year it was, we specifically excluded the riparian areas because of how many small trees.
Yeah.
Trees there were in those areas. That's a big task.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get there's a lot of volunteers on the south side and the east side of the property.
Now, it looked like on the list that you had, I only saw desirable species. Are there only desirable species there, or what was the percentage of desirable versus the Siberian elm?
So I don't have the percentages on the riparian corridor, but for the trees that we just inventoried here this year, Siberian elm was the highest percentage that we saw, with, I believe, the crack willow being probably the second. Both of those are cataloged as undesirable species, according to that ecological characterization study that was performed. This diagram on your screen now, and I apologize, it's really small here. There were trees highlighted in red are highlighted for removal. Yellow is where they've identified some tree pruning would be appropriate to, encourage a healthy canopy. We did have a tree risk assessment done for one tree specifically, and we'll get into that here in a minute. And then there are 2 trees in that sort of cyan, light blue, however it looks a little different on your screen than mine, on the north side, where they are a younger species that we did plant, but with the location that we're looking at for the restroom, there's a potential for those to be transplanted in order to give them another future somewhere else, but because of the restroom needs relative to floodplain, they are in conflict there. And then green would be remain in place, no pruning. Right now, everything that they inventoried is either falling into one of the above categories, except for the 2 that we had, there are 2 green ones up there that we had planted in that planting buffer on the north side. So those are the only 2 that don't require any pruning at this time, according to the inventory report. Sorry for the buffering each time. So the way I wanted to break it out for the purposes of discussion here is really by phase, the phase of construction and how they're impacted at different phases. Phase 1 is our most immediate phase because we do have funding identified for PPRTA. So this is something that will happen more quickly than some of the later phases where we don't have a specific timeline yet. So this is where the feedback I'll say is most sort of urgent or timely relative to the project. And I'll go through each of these trees individually here. Yeah.
Can I ask, just generally speaking, these are all removals in order to accommodate the construction that you're presenting at this moment in pink?
At this moment, yes. And there's sort of different reasons for each tree, and I'm curious because some of them have been identified because of like risk. Some of them have been identified because of poor tree health.
Those are to it than
Mhm.
just, we need this space because that infrastructure is going to be, or that's where underground infrastructure will be or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And I'm not sure how maybe recently you've walked that eastern edge of Hiawatha, but the existing pavement is very close to the edge of like tree trunks there. So in some places it's like maybe 6 inches off of an existing tree. And so some of it's not so much about what new is going there that we're encroaching further, but rather just to do the demolition to pull up that hardscape. There's some level of disturbance that can be anticipated. And with the Siberian elms, there's just a risk associated with them. But to clarify, we haven't done a specific tree risk assessment on all of those trees. That could be a recommendation that is, given tonight if that's what we would look to. There is a cost associated with tree risk assessments, but that's something we can definitely kind of figure out what that cost would be and kind of go from there and what's the most appropriate next step. So the first 2 trees that that have been suggested for removal by the arborist who did our tree inventory are both blue spruce on the west side of the property and are identified as desirable species. The one labeled number 1, which is actually going to be, if you see my cursor here, is we're right under my cursor right now. So it's on the south side of the porta potties. That one is identified as being in poor health, which is part of the reason for recommended removal. These trees also suffer from having pavement very close to the base of their trunk. And so there's, again, just with that removal of the pavement, we'd see some hardship to the trees. And then the tree number 2, which is right here, is identified as having fair health, but they feel that many roots would likely be cut again during that construction around the base of the trees there. So these are the first 2 recommended for removal. And if it's preferred, I can go through all of these for phase 1 and then we can kind of cycle back as there's specific ones that you guys want to talk about.
Well, how deep are they gonna have to dig for the asphalt? So that, I mean, because we're talking about tree root, disturbance, but for asphalt, I mean, like, are we talking like 2 feet? We've done about 1 foot?
Yeah, let me see if I can zoom
We've done
in
6 inches?
here a little bit. So let's see if I can pull this zooming in a little bit. So a couple things to note: when the inventory was done, we did not have a final pavement profile. And the inventory, the arborist has indicated that with additional information, he might revisit it. But this first one was identified as being in poor health. And we do have pavement right, this is very large, like right where the top of this arrow is, with the little cross there. So you have these roots kind of going through the pavement. Right now, Justin, I'll put you on the spot.
Mhm.
What depth are we looking at? I think
I think if it's asphalt itself, we're on the order, because it's vehicular in this case, so we're probably on the order of overall excavation, including like sub base and what you would need to do, 8 to 12 inches, say total. And then there's, adjacent, there's concrete walk areas that, maybe comparable to that, particularly vehicular, and then if it's pedestrian, slightly less than that as far as total excavation.
But there's an option that the asphalt could go around the tree, right? Like, kind of like how we do on our main street with our little grates that go around our trees to protect trees, and then things kind of evolve around the tree.
I think it depends, and feel free to jump in. Yeah.
Scenarios, but when it comes time to look at other possibilities rather than just cutting them down.
Yeah, I think with tree number 1 here, because it's identified in poor health, I wouldn't, that would be one that I'd say is a little more clearly, we don't want to make too much accommodation for it if it's got a high likelihood of failing, even if we did nothing.
Yeah.
Tree grates,
What about tree two?
I have, so tree 2, I think has similar, the potential to have a similar condition as tree 1 as it gets older, because it has been constrained for so much of its young life that we don't know exactly where the roots are. We don't know the depth of that asphalt paving right now, how many times it's been paved over. If we assume 12 inches, knowing that where trees like to put their roots, it's probably a little bit lopsided in its root spread there.
So if we pick those
Question, Aaron.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Question, Aaron. From Jan. And from my understanding, the trees that are planted where Dinah was mentioning along the streetscape, are those a different kind of tree that don't require the same kind of root system? Because it seems like those are a specific kind of tree that you have for the corridors of streetscape, whereas these look like they're maybe more prone to be in forests, etc., so they're inappropriate for streetscape. Is that true or not?
I would say, just based on my experience, these evergreen trees are not a tree we would select for a streetscape condition. Low branch, they're problematic for a lot of reasons, kind of shallow rooted, as you can see out there if you walk around them. About the like paving around them, I think one thing to consider is we're going to disturb them to do the construction and then put paving back. And long-term viability in that condition probably decreases just because of that work. So we might consider as an option is just planting something new that's going to have long-term viability.
I think that was going to be my next question is, I mean, as we run through this, and I suppose in the interest of getting through things efficiently, you probably want to get through the entire list. And then do you have prepared a follow-up plan in terms of replacement, or is that going to be part of the next phase? Or
Yeah,
I know we certainly would love to hear about that. And we're not opposed to removing trees that are in poor health, especially if we're going to be condemning them to worse health by all of the disturbance that we're going to make. But I think one of the interests that we have, just generally speaking, is where possible, if we're going to be removing, especially a mature tree, can we do what replacement options do we have available?
Yeah, we're currently working on the schematic design for Hiawatha. In terms of timing for when we come back, I think that we kind of have to work through that, but we do intend to come back to PARAB as things progress with updates from the feedback we received tonight.
Because we usually want to replant at least one, if not two trees for every tree taken down.
Yes, and so that is part of why you saw the parking lot change a little bit, is to add more space for that. The parking lot design has also changed as we kind of played with the edges to make sure we're actually, wherever possible, pulling back the pavement boundaries from the riparian corridor, from that eastern edge, to make it better. Like we're not increasing the constraint on the tree. We just always worry about disturbance during construction as you're drilling out that asphalt, that sort of thing. And there's certain trees, again, that are maybe worth taking the chance. A couple of issues with blue spruce in that current location is the habitat that they want has, especially sort of younger in life, has clearance requirements for any walkability around them, also has sight distance triangle requirements for like safety of seeing pedestrians or oncoming traffic.
Sure.
So those two are probably not the best placement for that species at that time. Great stuff.
So do you know, were those trees intentionally planted there, or? Yeah,
I
I mean,
I
when they were planted, or are these happy accidents?
I don't know. I would sort of assume that they were planted on purpose.
Yes, they were planted.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know when. And I don't believe it was, I believe the pavement up to the roots and the planting of those trees predates the city's ownership of that property. So that wasn't a decision made by city
Got
staff.
it. Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
And then on the east side, we'll get into a little bit of the the Siberian elms, which is pretty much every tree that was inventoried here on the east side. And we've looked at a couple of different ones because there's so much volunteer here. We have quite a bit of crowding in this area, that some of the under species are restricting the growth of the larger trees so that they can have a mature, healthy canopy. Most of these that were identified for removal are those that are the closest to that pavement, that existing pavement, that are, we'll say within 2 feet of the edge of pavement, and or maybe have a health issue, some existing trunk scarring, that sort of thing. So for 15, which again, the numbers go from top to bottom. So 15's at the top here where my cursor is. It's identified as having a 10-inch diameter at breast height. It's a Siberian elm and classified as undesirable, and it is too close to the parking lot and overhangs where the vehicles would potentially be parked, and are concerned about roots during construction being disturbed. This is one where there is, I think, ability to do more research into it in a lot of these here on the east side, where the arborists, it's my understanding that they're looking at what are the risk of failure, and if it fails, where is it going to fall? So here, when we look at these tree species, even though we are pulling the parking area back by a margin from the existing pavement, there's still the risk that if it fails, it falls on anyone using the parking area.
Yeah, I feel like at Erskine and somehow Siberian elms are always attracted either to A, cars with people inside.
Yeah.
They don't fall anywhere else.
And so that's where we classify tree 15. Tree 16 also has a little bit of a lean to it, that's leaning towards the parking area. And there's a small, they've classified, and it's still labeled 18. There's a small dead elm behind tree 18 that you'll see two circles here, and that's what those are. The next circle, which is right next to it, is 19, and it's again a 10-inch DBH, and there's an existing large wound on the trunk. It has poor structure, and it also overhangs the vehicle. So those 3 are recommended for removal by the arborist that did the inventory. And then 21 and 25. So 21 is right here and 25 is down there. 21 is 11.5 inches. 25 is a combination of two, a 7-inch and a 2-inch. 21 also has a large wound on its truck. It's in fair health. But it does overhang the vehicles. And fair health is just one step above poor health in the scale. So it's not considered good, but it's also not the worst. And then both of these would be identified as being kind of in that area of potential disturbance because of how close that existing pavement is to the edge of trunk there. And those are the trees identified as part of phase 1 that would be slated for removal. The total tree assessment inventory that was sent out as an attachment does identify where he's recommended some thinning for tree canopy, but that's part of the approach to maintain tree canopy health within this area and not something that's a direct reaction to disturbance due to construction. Yeah. So it's recommended maintenance, pruning, and removal of small caliber trees. Any questions on these trees? Any specific ones that you'd like us to look more into? Anything? I think we're sort of regardless of what we hear tonight, we will still ask the question to the arborist as we dial in our disturbance. Like, do we need to make any adjustments to the tree removal? Can any stay? Do you change your mind on any? Or are there any additional ones? Because we don't anticipate that encroachment increasing at this time, we don't see that number going up unless something drastic were to change. So
most of the trees on the east side are all Siberian elm.
that's correct.
Right, those are parties. So, and then if we could just come up with another plan to do, maybe plant a couple more appropriate street friendly trees for a place to do spruce.
Well, yeah, but on this side,
Yeah.
is there any other opportunity, to remove, back into that area? And, is there anything that we can plant that might help to mitigate the future propagation of the Siberian elms? Is there anything we can do to keep that? Is this an opportunity that we can use to keep that in check? Because it seems like on that side, from what I'm hearing and from what I've seen, that it's largely like a Siberian elm monoculture over there. Which is probably not healthy for us long term. I just don't know if this is an opportunity to think about managing that in a
Well-
forward-looking manner.
Yeah, from a tree canopy standpoint, we're excited about these Siberian elm removals because it does open the door to increase our diversity along the creek.
Right.
So these, I mean, and that area is so crowded right now.
It is.
It's really.
So we are kind of excited about it.
Okay.
I think we can plant new species that hopefully will help mitigate all the Siberian elms we have. But they're tough once they start growing and they grow fast.
Yeah, but that's something that you're already thinking about.
Mhm.
Okay, great. That's all I wanted to
Yeah,
ask is whether or not that this could be an opportunity. So thank you for
It
looking
is.
ahead.
So I don't have a problem with phase 1 proposal
Okay.
for tree removal.
Okay, great.
Me neither.
I don't either, and that's not where, the creek is not adjacent to that, right? Okay, I didn't think so, yeah, okay.
But I think we do see, in terms of the ecology, that does tie into the system,
Yeah.
even though it's
Right.
not directly
I mean,
adjacent to the creek.
Is it like a, hill?
Yes.
Is it like a slope?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
down to the residential, yeah.
here's some community members in my mind, concerned about erosion. And, we don't wanna open ourselves up to erosion or like that hillside falling, even though the elms, yes, are in some ways problematic, they're also holding the hill together. So, I think, like Jillian said, if we can plant some other species and work some stuff in there, hopefully that will help the situation.
Yeah, and I think the removals that we have from the saplings, we see that as an opportunity to strengthen the canopy and therefore the root structure for
Mhm.
stabilization of those more mature trees there, to help that
Great.
overall. And that's also why we pulled the parking back from that edge as much as sort of space would allow to give a little bit more buffer from that
Great. Well,
that
thanks for
bankage.
taking that Situation, cause I know that it's a concern, but.
Yeah, and we definitely look to be good neighbors with that adjacent property that's there.
I'm assuming it's a sound barrier too.
Yes, it provides really good screening, which I think is helpful when we look at our landscape standards around parking. And definitely sound and all that good stuff.
I think it's a good solution.
Thank you. Is it all right if I move on to phase 2? Okay. So phase 2 is the area that includes the open air pavilion and the area to the west when we're looking at kind of this plaza, more green space opportunity. And one of the things that we heard from the community as a strong desire is really always a kind of a greater connection to the creek. You're kind of pulled back from that edge along this, the southern edge of Hiawatha. And so as part of that pursuit, we've been looking at ways to connect the users of the plaza space to the creek, giving them sort of that opportunity here within the plaza space. And to that end, there's some trees that have been identified for removal in order to facilitate that engagement. Again, we have a number of trees that have been classified into one because they're volunteers growing closely together. Some of them maybe are a little more multi-stemmed in character, whether that's specifically a manifestation of their species is not necessarily typical, but 38 here is another collection of Siberian elms that are 6 inches or less. It's identified as having 4 stems, that they're pretty close to the building. What you see here is one of those footers that comes out from the pavilion's edge, and there's kind of another part over there. So this is very close to the building. It's something that is kind of built, it's growing into the retaining wall there, and so it's been identified for removal. And then we have a box elder, collection of multi-stems here. So this is just just west. It's this little bump right there, with all of those. It again has poor structure due to just the vast amount of stems there, and it is represents a future risk of failure because of kind of the poor branching structure is what's been identified by the arborist.
Can that be remedied by pruning?
I'm not sure. That's a question I can take to the arborist.
Can you ask them?
Yeah.
I'd like to see the box elder.
It is definitely within an area that in order to grade for better access to the creek, we might see it might be very difficult to like maintain its root structure to that.
What do you say access to the creek? What is that?
It is we're exploring ideas we'll maintain the existing retaining wall that's along that edge, but then it slopes up a little bit and you have a lot of multi-stemmed volunteer trees on the south edge there. So we're looking to provide opportunities for seeding, more visible clearance to the creek at this location. Really, I think there's a little bit of an approach we've been kind of talking through where the west side has that clearance, so that people can sort of see and engage with this ecosystem. And then the east side of the pavilion really goes back to nature even a little bit more than it is right now in terms of really building on that riparian ecology.
But the trees you're talking about right now are west.
That's correct.
And you're talking about removing all of those trees.
Yes, not many of them, I believe not any of them have been identified as being over 6-inch caliper on their own. So you're getting a lot of that mass through there being a lot of densely, let me see if I can zoom in here, densely packed multi-stems. So right here, the red lines that he's identified are all of the different box elder multi-stems that have popped up there. So it reminds me a lot more of like a forsythia bush in terms of how it's developing than a true tree canopy structure. So yeah, I guess I totally understand what you're saying with it being am I on the next slide? Did I flip? Sorry, I did flip to the next slide for the box elder. Sorry. Let me go back to that one. So this one's not quite as many as the other side, but you can see it's got quite a few multi-stems there. So I think if box elder is a desirable species, we'd definitely be open to having that incorporated into our tree species list and plant a few of these that are probably of similar caliper size to what you see here individually, and have a better chance of having that better branch structure. But I will also ask our arborist if he thinks it's something that can be our consultant arborist, if that's something that could be corrected with pruning or not.
We're probably not
Oops.
burning for box on there.
Actually, we just planted a new one in Silver Springs Park.
Yeah. Well, I called it box on.
But I can look at options for the box elder and bring those back to the group to see if there's, you know, another path that would be preferable.
Because I kind of don't like the idea of removing all of the trees on the west side. I'd like to at least have one or a couple of them, because that blocks a lot of the sun, because the sun, that's the big, the south.
Yes, so we aren't removing the trees that are on the south side of the creek here, where you can see my cursor, and that's where there is a little more of that higher mature canopy coming from.
So these are closer to the parking lot.
Mhm.
Trees.
Yep.
That's what I want to take a walk.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't believe any of these on this west side are identified as being over 6-inch calipers. So that gives you kind of a sense of what height they have. And we would, you know, we are looking with the design on the west side to replant this area, because it's we say plaza space, and that tends to bring to mind for some people, you know, large paved areas, but that's not what we've heard from the community that they want. So we've been with that goal of more soft nature, like aesthetic. We've been looking at, you know, how can we really make this a very green plaza and enhance the tree canopy on the west side.
Well,
And then the final tree that I have is kind of under phase 2 risk assessment, although I think you could kind of put it in either phase depending on how you want to look at it, is there is this one crack willow that is 45 inches diameter at breast height approximated, because our water level has been pretty high, so some of the investigation was limited just with that creek access. It does have a pretty severe lean over the pavilion. And since it had that lean, I felt it was appropriate to do a risk assessment on it. A couple limitations that he noted was that because of the height of the water at this time, he couldn't, based on his site visit, it didn't appear that there was any root rot or hollowness down there, but he couldn't sort of get down there and to confirm because the water was pretty high and rushing. He, I guess, doesn't really give, yes, it absolutely has to go. He just gives us a sense of what the risks are. And he would for sure recommend, if we keep it, pruning the canopy to reduce, you know, any deadfall or things like that over it. And it's what I just wanted to make everybody aware of as we look at improvements to the pavilion, just what that risk is if it falls, just how much risk are we willing to assume.
I kind of consider those old willow trees to be like the heritage trees. Yes, thank you. Because they're old, they've been around a long time. And if we can save them, if they're not in danger of falling or whatever, I would say, let's try to keep those.
Would it be, like, let's say the water level goes down and we could get additional data on the roots, would that be okay to bring it back to you guys saying, okay, we've either confirmed this, and so we'll confirm the recommendation and take it to the next step, or say with this new information, is there a change in recommendation?
I think it's a good idea to get more.
Yeah,
I mean, that
more assessment.
we are talking about a non-native species,
Yeah, but
so it's not that old.
no, those crack willows are big. They've been around for a long time.
Big doesn't necessarily mean old, they might be fast growing. I mean, a lot of elms grow quickly, but we haven't had Siberian elms here since the 30s. Right?
I don't know, but anyway, I'm rooting for the credit.
Okay.
I'm not.
And I will say the other willows, we haven't done a risk assessment on them, but we're not seeing encroachment to their root zone. So none of them have been identified as at risk at this time, with phase 1 or phase 2. That being a qualifier.
And they're called a crack willow because they tend to crack, I presume.
Oh, really? Not because they make you feel really good when you stand by them?
I don't think so. I'm not sure, Tim, but I don't think so. I think, and we have experience with some over in Fields Park that have really cracked and fallen down and done a lot of work for public works. Right, Jillian?
Yeah, we had one last week, actually.
So,
Oh, really?
so more
Yeah.
assessment would be good.
I think it's good. Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of lovers meeting.
Oh, yeah.
More information is good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think just to kind of summarize what we've heard so far is that yes to pruning before removal would be voted for by this group. Additional information, especially on the root structure, would be desirable. It's just something we can talk about with the arborist once the water level he feels is safe to kind of navigate. Just one thing to note, the tree comes down and is rooted on the southern side of the creek. So it's actually extending across the whole creek and leaning that way. Yeah.
Wow.
So just kind of fun fact. So I'm going to circle back to an earlier slide where we showed all the different phases of this project to kind of introduce this final phase, or this phase 3. So phase 3 is identified as the vehicular bridge on the east side to provide parking lot access and the closure of Old Man's Trail. And so with the vehicular bridge, as you can imagine, there is some tree removal proposed as part of that. I don't have I don't have any additional information since December 3rd of 2024 on this. We are working through, again, with our consultant team made up of those that are on the call today, but also a robust engineering group, what the sort of final footprint and level of disturbance we would see with that. So just to kind of date this proposed removal against the others, it's based on earlier information, and we do anticipate new information or advanced information, more detailed, and we'll bring it back to you when we have it. But I didn't want to overlook it at this time. I didn't want it to feel like I surprise you with it later.
Thanks, Adam. So, I know a lot of people don't know about the proposed closure of Old Man's Trail. Is that a done deal?
That is the current recommendation for council, from
And
council.
why is that?
There's concerns about vehicular traffic loads on El Paso Boulevard. So opportunities provide multiple points of exit for the users of the parking area.
Wait a minute, say that.
Yes,
Sorry. So with the parking spots, the parking lot at Hiawatha, there have been concerns and complaints about how much traffic that puts on El Paso Boulevard. So the vehicular bridge was identified as a solution to distribute traffic between El Paso Boulevard and Manitou Boulevard and people exiting and entering Hiawatha Gardens.
Not to mention that Old Man's Trail isn't great for pedestrians either, as you get closer to Manitou Avenue.
Tim, can you speak up?
Oh, sorry, I just said, just from a pedestrian standpoint, Old Man's Trail isn't great. As you get closer, like that third of Old Man's Trail, like where the bridge is, close to Manitou Avenue, there's really very inadequate sidewalk and it's difficult to see as well.
Agreed.
And we did have preliminary conversations with CDOT regarding the vehicular bridge, but as we are connecting into a CDOT roadway, there's additional conversations that are being had with CDOT, as well as, working with our consultant team through this bridge concept. Because when it was
a recommendation, but it sounds like there's still a lot of work to do to make it a reality.
Yes. I think and maybe this is too sort of consultancy language. So I see the vehicular bridge as being a little more at the master plan stage, and we're working to get it to schematic design. Whereas phase 1 and 2, because they were part of that original sort of before floodplain was revealed concept, have been vetted much more. So it is very preliminary in that we're, working with our engineering team to understand what's required to install a bridge here, understanding soils, et cetera. What type of width do we need to look at to meet sort of the performance requirements that that City Council has requested for this bridge to function as? And then with those conversations with CDOT, what would CDOT require to make it compatible with their rules? So there's a lot of, and it's over a creek. So you have a lot of layers to this proposal that maybe aren't engaged with the other phases.
So would the vehicular bridge also serve as a pedestrian bridge? Or would we have to add in another bridge for the pedestrians?
So right now we're looking at options that would have that be part of the bridge plate, that you would have a width there that wouldn't just be the 3-4 foot width that's on Old Man's Trail, but something that would be much more akin to the Creek Walk Trail, which is 10 feet wide, so that we're anticipating a diverse users crossing there.
And then how would Creek Walk Trail integrate into that plan?
So we don't have any specifics on Creek Walk Trail. Our approach when we're looking at this project is seeing it as a node and looking at how people would circulate through it and what any barriers are to that. So there's not a specific, we're for sure connecting into the Creek Walk 4, which we have plans that are at a construction level for. But then in Hiawatha, we're looking at how can we anticipate people circulating through here or making stops here, and just leaving all of the options open for however Creek Walk 5 manifests itself.
Okay.
Justin, just
Yeah.
ballpark,
Mhm.
what do you think the cost and expense to the vehicular bridge would be?
Wow.
Just ballpark.
We have
I'm not really qualified to answer that because, I mean, we have just to tell you, like, we have a structural bridge engineer on the team to study this.
Is he here tonight?
He's not.
Hey Justin,
Really
this is
early.
Byron.
Yeah.
We do have Emily on the call. She represents the general contractor and can speak probably a little bit more closely to potential costs of the bridge and when those might be available.
I
Yes.
think.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, and so there was a cost quoted at the December 3rd meeting. I don't know that number off the top of my head for the vehicular bridge, and we're in the process with each of these different design decisions. They all impact cost.
Absolutely.
So we're looking at, and Emily is working diligently to cost several different approaches to how bridges are constructed, right? When you have, I think the one that was entertained by the URA, where it's just basically a flat bridge, go straight across, one of those that's more prefab with the metal railings, et cetera, or one that's the kind of concrete shape that you plop in and have the, the different veneers on. So we are looking at different options from an affordability standpoint. What's that scope of disturbance, and what we're looking at additional geotechnical information to see what the soils are in that place. So there's just a lot of variables, and I just really hesitant. I know Emily has a lot of expertise, but I'm hesitant to say anything right now that's based on such preliminary information.
Sure. But just from the sound, it looks like it really impacted me standing here big time. Because that's where you're talking about putting that vehicular bridge, right?
That's correct. So the initial assessment that you can see on the screen there with the red circles, this was done and presented December 3rd, and it was a very high level analysis of sort of taking a vehicular bridge footprint of sort of generic and the ecological characterization study that was completed and overlaying them and saying kind of, here's where we see that disturbance. I'm not going to sort of speculate on if they were on the wide side or the narrow side of disturbance, in what way they erred. But we did identify about 19 trees that would be removed, Siberian elms, crack willows, cottonwood, and green ash of various sizes. So
Question, Aaron, I'm presuming that Old Man's Trail would not be closed until the vehicular bridge would be done.
That's correct. That has been a directive from CDOT that in order to open the bridge, the Old Man's Trail would need to be closed. So one would not happen without the other. They would happen simultaneously.
Yeah.
Mhm. And just, for the benefit of this group, this is very high level. And once we get information on that footprint from the bridge construction, as well as, so once we have that, we would likely go back to Tall Timbers, have them do assessment in this area with those boundaries for this tree health. Because the ecological characterization study didn't give us that depth of detail that we have on the other phases. So I don't have all the information here to have the most robust conversation with you tonight, but I didn't want to not talk about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I appreciate that.
So it is something that we would come back to this group on once we had more information. So I just wanted to let you know that that was coming. Anything else to kind of share, like if or to ask if as we get that information, you'd want to make sure you saw X in that report for these trees?
Appreciate
Okay.
you, Aaron, and all the other people involved.
Yeah, not in particular. I think that you've probably gathered that our interest and recommendations would be, if it's a desirable tree, especially if it's a mature tree, save through pruning if possible, if that's an opportunity for health. If it's not due to disturbance, or if it's an undesirable tree already, especially if it's in poor health, we support removal in, in all aspects of the plan, but with the ask that that removal can be, look for an opportunity for replacement, either 1-to-1 or preferably 2-to-1, especially if that can be something that can help to mitigate further future spread of invasive species. Is that?
In a nutshell.
Where we are?
Yeah.
You know?
Thank you for that. That's
Yeah,
very
no
helpful.
problem.
Yeah.
Maybe this-
Yeah, if we could get 2 trees for every,
Yeah.
sorry, I was gonna say trash tree, I shouldn't say that, but every undesirable tree or poor, that's in poor health there, that's a huge, I think, win for our future community.
That's what I have right now for any tree impacts. I'm gonna move on. I have a couple other questions just about this plaza space from kind of that parks and recreation lens that I'd like to get your guys' feedback
Okay.
on if you're ready to move on from the tree
Yeah,
removals.
sure.
Okay. So the first question is, other than the restroom construction, what opportunities do you see for this plaza to support Memorial Park uses or users? And I'll flip over to the site plan here. So the area, when we talk about plaza space, I think specifically we're asking about this zone here. But if we look ahead to phase 3, anything that you would say that's a frequent request from the community or things like that you see with your PARAB hats on, we're open to hearing your thoughts on that.
I thought when we went through it before, it was an indication of a place for people to rest, to meet people, to maybe have a place, whether it's a picnic table or benches or something for people to gather. Could be an entertainment, impromptu, small gatherings for something like that. Does anyone else remember those kinds of things?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, just in terms of how the layout of the park is already. The play structures are on the opposite end. That end is pretty much anchored by the Eber Duplo Memorial. And then we've got some existing picnic tables on the northeast corner there, and then the rest of it is just kind of that kind of strange access area to get either in for events or to the water infrastructure that we're constantly, constantly fighting over maintaining the integrity of the turf in that area. I think that's mostly what we have. So yeah, and thinking of that as an inviting pedestrian access into Memorial Park. Something that provides a nice green contrast or natural contrast to the parking structure. I think is key. I'm not sure that I would have any other major designs on like building infrastructure in there.
Okay.
I would think the more natural it can be from a transition zone, the better. Especially if it's something that we can activate from a pedestrian standpoint, where in an area where there used to be cars.
Mhm.
What do you think, Daniel?
So now you're talking about
I think we're talking about this area here.
I was thinking about all this area here, should I not think about Old Man's Trail, just that rectangle that's east of Old Man's Trail?
I think we can talk about both for sure. Just recognizing that I don't know if that plaza space and the Old Man's Trail closure, how close that will happen together, or if phase 2 will exist for a duration by itself before Old Man's is closed. So
No, I just building on what Jan said, just a natural gathering space that's a good, buffer between the park and the creek and the parking area.
So Aaron, down on the bottom right hand corner, is that the vehicular bridge there?
yes, right here. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and we are looking with the closure of Old Man's Trail. A lot of that bus traffic then also has the opportunity we're trying to keep that more on Manitou Avenue. So that's what you'll see here, that this Chase Bank structure really becomes the primary, I guess I'll think about bus shelter or transit shelter for this project as a whole. So we're really looking at this, even though these are separate parcels, we're really looking at holistically, and that circulation between the two of them, we want it to be easy, so that the Hiawatha on the north, the amenities there supports Chase Bank and vice versa in terms of how it fits into the larger system.
Chris has brought up, I'm sorry, you should buy that. I was going to say you brought up Creek Walk before. Are there any opportunities in there linking the disparate parts of Creek Walk on either side?
So we have taken this project to MAPS and have asked for their feedback on what types of multimodal infrastructure we need to have in these spaces to help serve as a node along the Creek Walk Trail.
I heard an idea yesterday, in fact, and maybe some of you have heard this idea already. But the idea was that, I think this, if I heard this right, it was that Creek Walk would travel to this side. Travel along the creek, actually under the pavilion and over to here. That is an idea that I heard, I believe. So I'm curious about that. I'm also curious about how the shuttle bus would pass through here, or like how do you
So it would,
imagine that?
yeah, it would stay right here. So be a pull off. Yeah, so then people queuing would queue under the shelter, but the buses themselves would not pass under it because it doesn't have the clearance to accommodate that. Yeah. With regards to the trail potentially going to the north side, we're definitely looking at circulation, how it's crossing the creek and how it connects to these destinations that we see, whether it be parking, the plaza and pavilion space, or the restroom. Anything going under the pavilion, there would be a lot of grade change to get to the clearance height that you need for cycling, as well as disturbance within a floodplain. So there would be a lot of triggers for additional regulatory impact. But I wouldn't, I'll speculate further. I won't speculate further than that, but those are the few things that kind of pop into my mind when hearing that potential solution for going under. Like, are you talking about under the plane? Okay. Yeah.
I don't really know.
Yeah. I mean, through the pavilion, that would be a different thing. So maybe I'm just misunderstanding the under.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. I mean, I think the other thing, so if the Old Man's Trail is, what's the word I'm looking for?
Abandoned or
Yeah.
purpose?
Yeah.
Repurpose.
Repurpose. I could see some, I guess I'm sort of having like a reaction. We've had so many issues with Soda Springs Park and like people having vendors and so forth, having access to the park and events, people, driving into the park, so. I think we just need to think about how they are gonna access the park and, if we're making this like this big pedestrian friendly plaza, those two things don't mix, and so. Yeah, how to manage that.
So,
so
Chris, are you talking about, and I think it's you, Chris, that are speaking.
Yeah, yes,
When we've had events before in Memorial, often the food trucks and stuff are on the north side on El Paso, so they haven't been on Old Man's Trail anyway.
Okay.
okay, good. I think some of them pull in there though, like the Euro truck and anyway, I've
So-
seen it happen.
Opportunity to go somewhere else.
would it be fair to say if it with the closure of Old Man's Trail, because you had both kind of identified that there is a vehicular access point on the southeast side of Memorial Park, which would be impacted by the closure of of Old Man's Trail, apologize. That's something we just want us to think about in terms of, we'll work with parks in terms of how it's currently used and making sure we're thinking about
I
alternatives.
mean, I think from our standpoint, we would be thrilled if there was no more vehicular access to.
And just remember too, in the, when the community engagement for Hiawatha, they talked about having kind of like parking for food trucks. That's gonna happen over at Hiawatha. I think that's gonna be accommodated somewhere else, actually, so. I think it's probably gonna be okay, but
Have you guys talked to the residents who live off of like Cedar Lane and Pine Ridge,
Opinion.
Yeah.
Yes,
How they access to get to home?
we haven't asked them about Old Man's Trail specifically. We have heard their concerns about traffic control.
Because they'll be forced to either. Go all the way down to where the chamber is, that would be the first place where they can get out to the avenue. And, or they'd have to go up by the city hall and clog up that artery. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about all those people who live over there on that little area.
Or up on Sunshine Trail up to the highway.
Yeah,
there's still 3 other ways to get to their house, so.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if this works the way that it's proposed, it'll lessen traffic on El Paso, which would be a net improvement for them. Potentially. Right, but still, I mean, if you don't have cars that are coming in with, we're parking on that end. Question, what is that like really skinny gray trapezoid on the end?
Good, I was gonna ask about that.
Me too.
Which one? Oh, this thing?
Yeah, what's that?
With the kind of realignment of the parking lot from the previous plan, that we've explored, that December 3rd, then we explored it. With this option, we had the opportunity for a larger green infrastructure space on the south side there. So that would be another thing we heard from the community is really a lot of concern with this parking lot having existed next to the creek, with runoff and polluted runoff. And so this would provide an opportunity to filter some of those solids out, all that before it enters the creek. So that's what it's.
Excellent.
It would be like not a swale, but
It could be like,
where they recycle all the toxins from the parking lot, so don't go into the creek.
one technical word is phytoremediation, like where plants are remediating storm runoff and pollutants. It's a stormwater management strategy. It's like a low impact development strategy. So rain garden, bioinfiltration.
Like a bioswale.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be very similar to the one at the pool. So we see it, we're taking the lessons from that and the successes from that, and looking here.
Smishny parking lot did one of those too.
Oh, yeah.
So their
really?
swale is right in the corner of their parking lot, right before it gets to the creek.
Okay,
Thank you for.
yeah, it's a great opportunity, I think, to pull some of that paving back and use it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what our interests are, that Janet said for that, the rectangle there that's in that property area is for a green meeting space, maybe picnic tables or something that would encourage people to gather in that area. Natural buffering heading into Memorial Park, any possibility of using that area to link the east and west parts of the Creek Walk Trail actually close to the creek and not away from it, I think is an interest on our end. And then,
We talked about bike racks
one
there
other
too.
thing. Oh, did you say bike racks?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Actually, I think there's some like bike lockers, there's gonna be a, bike locker put in this spot somewhere.
Yeah,
Okay.
both of those are things we heard from maps as well. So you guys are
Yeah.
jiving, you're in sync
Okay.
there.
Was there something else that we're missing in terms of priorities?
And the pavilion itself is now gonna be open air.
Yes, that's correct.
And so, like, say it was raining, there was an event at the park, like the drum circle or something, could they potentially easily move underneath there?
I don't necessarily know the exact scale of the drum circle. I would think it'd be possible.
Yeah.
That's definitely something I'd wanna run by Megan,
If it's not rented out,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it will be a rentable space.
Okay.
So if there's
Mhm.
another party under there who's rented the pavilion, no,
No.
they,
Okay.
unless they wanna share.
Okay.
But it's a rentable space.
And I would say maybe some like lighting, but not like super bright lighting,
Mhm.
but like maybe some soft, enchanting
Yeah,
lighting.
so there was some level of comfort walking through it,
Yeah.
especially in the winter months where you,
Backs over there and bike
Yeah.
parking and all of that.
yeah.
To make it be friendly.
Yeah, like if you're getting back to your car later or something, that feels like a safe path to take.
Yeah, I think, there are a lot of groups of people that meet to recreate in Manitou, whether it's like a bar trail or incline or other trails. I mean, I think a lot of people actually use that area as a staging. It'd be wonderful if that could turn into a nice meeting area, start and finish, for groups that are interested in using those things. Okay. But yeah, I don't think we have any interest in more slides there.
Okay.
That's what you're wondering. Even though I'm pro slide.
Okay. I'll move on to the question number 2, which is our last question, because I know I've taken up a lot of your time tonight. Is what, when we look at this space, what do we need to make sure we're providing in order to support community users in this plaza space? I think we've heard a little bit, there's some overlap with question 1 when we talk about that, but that's been a really strongly stated goal, is that even though this is a mobility hub and, in its capacity as a parking lot, but really wanting to make sure this is a place used by Manitou residents as well. And so if there's anything that would need to be here, would really help to be here to activate it. One thing we're currently considering is we have reached out to Crane because the goal we heard is make it Manitou, and they're a great ally in that. So we're looking at the possibility of an artist inspired, musical play element in the plaza space as an activator, as something that you might gather around and enjoy.
Yeah, or really I wouldn't necessarily limit it to a simple category, but I would use the example of the carved treehouse in Memorial Park. I'm sorry, I don't know if it has a name. We talked about it before. But something like that, or multiple things like that, little points of interest, of magic, things that are definitely unique to our space, especially if they could be created by someone in our community or adjacent to our community would be wonderful. So any small opportunities for that would be high on my list. Thank you for bringing that up.
Creative, colorful.
It's the little fairy something.
Fairies.
Yes, especially in it's a riparian area. There is a fairy. More fairy houses, please.
Any other items to add?
So this is something I've talked with Aaron about before, but I'd like to see a couple of water bottle refill stations.
Oh, yeah.
The water fountain in Memorial Park does not work. the drinking fountain, and we're actually, I'm gonna talk about it with you guys tonight, we're taking it out. So having a station for folks to refill their water bottles, I think would be awesome.
Like more
And-
than one, yeah,
Yeah, and just super practical.
yeah.
So, that's what I'm advocating for
Okay.
this space.
Terrific.
Thanks, Jan.
And maybe even some shade or covered.
But that would be the open air pavilion.
Yeah, that's true.
Making sure there's permanent seating under the open air pavilion to be used sort of outside of events. Would that be maybe where you're heading, or?
Well, you know, that's a possibility, but the problem we ran into with seating in Salt Springs,
Mhm.
but for pavilion, just the homeless people were sleeping on
Mhm.
the benches. And it became kind of like a breeding ground for the homeless people, so we got rid of them all.
Okay.
But then it posed the problem of providing seating for our events.
Mhm.
So Harold bought all of these groups of five, those camp chairs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's worked all these years, but a lot of them wore out and stuff. So I don't know if permanent seating, that's an option or a consideration, I just don't know what that would invite.
Mhm. No, it's a good thing to think about as we
Yeah.
propose seating, just what opportunities for, again, making that space feel safe and secure throughout the day, and what might that look like.
Right.
So we can definitely take that into the design process.
I don't have anything else to say.
Right, awesome. That was my last question. So I can let you guys get back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your time and feedback, real helpful.
Yeah, and we'll work with Jillian on the next time we come back with some updates for you guys, as well as any additional information to share or requests. So
Thanks, Aaron.
There
Thank
might be
you.
more of us, so.
yeah, hear a few more things.
You might
Well,
not go backtracking.
and if anybody that wasn't here tonight from PARAB listens to this, reads the minutes, and has additional feedback to some of these questions and these trees, please feel free to send it my way so we can incorporate it before we're going back. So we want to make sure we're incorporating these comments as early in the design process as possible. So
When do you think phase one is gonna start kicking off?
I have goals for that right now, but we have a number of approvals between now and then, so I don't want to speculate. I know there's a goal to break ground before the end of this year. So, and then a goal to have construction completed before the end of next year on phase one. Yes, we have, like I said, we've advanced this design quite a bit in phase 1 and 2, but there's we have to get through another presentation to council to make sure we're on track with the vision as we've sort of refined, and there's more details to sort of as what we've heard from comments, and now you come with more details. There's a few more comments usually, and then we'll have our entitlements, which will be the major development plan, which will be a public hearing item that will go, and then as part of that, CSU, Colorado Springs Utilities will review that plan as utilities are folded in. Same with our public works departments, although we're working with them to collaborate on that up front. And then we have to go to Pikes Peak Regional Building. And so then that has,
All steps.
yes, there's a lot of steps, and yes, so that we're making sure we're, following all those steps, and each of those comes with a review timeline. And if we get through on the first, round of review, then everything's great. Versus if, we hear a few more things, if there's any major code changes to PPRBD between now and then, although we don't participate in.
With public charrettes?
For phase 1 and 2, we are, because we have had engagement around the goals for those projects.
Yeah.
And we did have an engagement event for the plaza that did definitely, I think, guide why you're starting to see a lot more vegetation in these areas, whereas earlier iterations had a lot of paving. And like what Jan said about really wanting these diverse sort of scales of gathering and more intimate sort of impromptu gatherings, that's something we heard loud and clear at that public engagement for the plaza. So
Thing for the plaza I'm curious about is like outlets. Like if someone wanted to use it for a workspace, or they're a tourist and they need to charge their device or look up in directions, or, so I don't know if that could be, you know, certain hours of the day, so it's not, again, like kind of being used by people like all day long, but, or I mean, all night long.
Is there any, I'll say, policy for parks right now with regards to that type of?
So I could see outlets there, but they would be off at night.
Yeah.
So the parks have electricity, but only when they're being rented out for events.
Okay.
So, but that's how it is now. Things could change. But typically it's off unless there is an event happening, and then we'll turn it on. Like in Memorial Park right now, that's how the outlets in that park work. But I know we're gonna have outlets around the open air pavilion.
Yeah,
And
so-
maybe some
Yeah,
through the
that's what I
plaza
was-
space.
And you could do benches in the pavilion, open air pavilion, you know, just like our regular benches, just to have some seating there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and we could definitely make note of that and kind of see what that looks like from a operations and maintenance standpoint. Because it's definitely possible, just whether it's maintainable, that type of thing. Those are just
Yeah, I
questions
would
that come
say
to my
another
mind.
thing that we've been trying to move towards was. Mostly my interest, we've talked about it, is just when we are building structures, whether it's like a picnic table or a bench or some other kind of shade structure. Yeah, anything that we can use that can either be replaced or fabricated by either a local contractor or by city personnel would be ideal, rather than some large prefab structure that once it's hit its use, it has to be replaced rather than repaired, is a great interest of ours.
Make it serviceable.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be like a little stage area in that open air pavilion?
There's not an anticipated like raised area of that, but I know that has been used at different times in its long history for, you know, concerts or things like that, but just on a flat. It won't have the stage that Soda Springs does. Yes, yes.
And, it's in a floodplain, so there'd be a problem with having a permanent structure within the pavilion.
Really?
Yeah. We'd have to go through a lot of hoops to document that. Okay.
Yeah, if the plaza could have a raised area somewhere, that might be.
A dais.
Of interest.
What?
A dais.
How about a stepped up
Yeah.
area that could be used?
That's something we can explore.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Leah.
I'll
Appreciate it.
end here,
Okay,
so.
I'm going to-
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Emily. Thanks, David.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Thanks, Justin.
Thanks.
Or like, yeah. Dan, we're gonna take a short break.
Yeah, that's a good call. Bye.
It's gonna be a cool space.
I think.
I was really more excited. Closed.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we would have something more useless.
Really, I was really more excited.
Okay, I'm suffering, no clarity of language when you guys speak right now.
Oh, because
Oh, sorry, we're just kind of taking a break and lunch.
breaking them up a little.
And that's, yeah, that's fine. It's just, if you're wanting me to hear, it was pretty good
Hey.
with Aaron and such, so that was good.
Hey Jen, I was thinking about you the other day. I was running on the west end of town. And there is one of the street trees on the west end, New Street Trees, is a catalpa. And it looks like it's thriving.
Yeah, it is.
It is. I was totally blown away. It was awesome to see it.
Well, that's because it wasn't in the library.
Yeah, exactly. Given it wasn't in the library.
Yes,
But it really looks good. And it's a shame that we weren't able to make it happen at the library.
I know. So it goes.
So yeah, so it goes. Jan, when you were teaching, did you have an area of focus?
Yeah, critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but like, were you like, British Lit? Did you teach AP? Was it, you were high school, right?
Yeah, I did high school. I did American Lit.
Okay.
I did junior honors, which was British Lit. And then I also did AP, which was pretty much global
You did
literature.
you did a lot of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't have one area of expertise, and then I also did an awful lot of staff development.
Okay. Yeah, so it goes, always makes me think of Kurt Vonnegut.
Critical thinking skills are the most important thing I could have done.
Yeah. Uh,
Enough said.
that should be that hidden curriculum. That's in everything.
No hidden part at all. It was kids did not get straight answers from me. They
Really?
always no. They said, "Well, what's the right answer?" And I said, "Well, let's think about it. What would be the logical solution? What is the best solution? How do we get there?" They didn't like that, but then they came back afterwards and said, "So I saw what you were doing there."
Right. That's sort of like 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4, but 2 cats plus 2 fish.
Depends.
Yeah, it depends, right?
Yeah, I loved doing what I was doing, but after 31 years, I was done.
Where did you teach?
In D11, it was at North, Doherty, and Wasson, and then I coached teachers that were struggling for 5 years,
Okay.
K through 12.
How was that experience?
I loved it. I had an opportunity to take 26 years of learning how to teach and share it and support people that were doing it.
I would kill for a coach.
Most people would.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, right here. These are fine.
So how often are you, Tim, in Canyon City?
Now, about 7 days a month, trying to get it down to 6.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, once upon a time it was close to 14, and then it was 10, and then it was 8, and then it was 7.
How about Cassandra?
Not anytime soon. That's the problem, is I really like what I do, and I love the people and the like the hospital community there, just not all the time.
Intense.
Yeah, well, it's all about that balance, right? How much do you need to be, satisfied with what you're doing professionally and, filling their needs that they have. Because it's also not easy you can't just magic up a replacement, in a community like Canyon City. We're gonna move on. All right, we gotta move on. We're getting a high time over here.
Okay, let's move on. Get her done.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. We are on report. We have our first report.
A very short one today, so Aaron covered pretty much everything in her Hiawatha overview.
Yeah.
Just an FYI, we did remove that big dead pine tree from Fields Park. We don't know what killed it. It wasn't bugs, which is the good news because bugs can travel and we
Yeah.
don't want more pine trees.
Yeah.
But we're not sure what killed it, but it died and Aaron and Michael took it down, I believe early last week. And we did have a cracked willow fail along Fountain Creek on the backside of Fields Park. It kind of split in half. It was actually while our arborist team was eating lunch in the park.
No.
I know. So they heard it fall, which is wild. It fell across the soft surface path going behind the concrete creek walk trail. So everyone was fine, no one was hit, but we did have to cut it off the path. So just a couple of arborist updates there.
I saw that a big willow was cut back on Lover's Lane.
So that was on private property, the big tree behind the apothecary.
Yes.
Yeah,
Haven't had a bit.
so a
Big
tree risk assessment was done on that tree back in February, and the property owners did recently have it reviewed.
Okay.
The assessment was high risk, it was very high risk, the base was pretty hollow and it was kind of rotting. So the property owners were notified and they had it.
Thanks for the info.
So Jillian,
Yep,
we don't have an arborist yet, so are we using Tall Timbers as an arborist consultant?
we are. They're our go-to right now. They're extremely responsive and they have lower tree risk assessment rates right now than other arborist companies.
Have you gone
Just
back,
was curious.
gone back to the state Forest Service?
To do tree risk assessments?
Well, I mean, if you were gonna do a large survey, I think an individual tree risk assessment would probably be too low level for them, but. We had used the state forestry service and we used the office from La Junta. Actually, to do our
Okay.
original tree survey when we discovered that PARAB was responsible for. Yeah, that was Colorado's. No, well, there was a guy that came down to Woodland Park and he was the one that I had originally contacted because I thought you'd go to the. You'd go to the branch that was closest to your community, but actually. He referred us to the office in La Junta. And that's where Donna came from.
She was good.
Was it? I thought it was La Junta. Oh, yeah, it was south, but it was she really, yeah, they were really wonderful, and I don't think. They, like I said, like if it was an individual tree question, that might be. You know, less than their scope, but they were the type of people that I really started to feel bad that we were taking advantage of because they were so helpful. And so they were wonderful. Yeah.
I'm still connected with Tree USA, that whole arbor thing, I still get emails.
Yep, and we are Tree City USA again.
Should I start forwarding those emails to you? Or-
Aaron also gets those emails.
Okay,
Yeah,
that was
so-
my next question.
Donna, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
So one more tree thing, we are having a treatment done on the river birch in front of City Hall. It's looking a little rough, so we had Save a Tree come out and they recommended a kelp treatment. To the roots, so they'll be injecting the roots of that tree with an arbor kelp.
I love that tree, what's the name of it again?
It's a river birch.
A river.
That's so good.
Yep, so we're, yeah, our eyes are on it, you know, it's looking a little,
I don't know if that work that they did in front of City Hall and they dug up that whole thing might have impacted.
it might have, I know they took a lot of care around it, cause that work's being done by a couple of our local gardeners. 3 of our local gardeners, but we're hoping it didn't impact it too much. Or it'll bounce back after this treatment.
Okay, Parks and Rec Advisory Board, the memorial tree's been planted at Soda Springs Park
Yes,
in honor of Joy. I forgot her last name. But it's a type of a buckeye tree. It's
is it?
It's a type, it's in the Popeye family.
Okay.
It's a horse chestnut.
Oh, it's a horse.
Okay.
Horse chestnut.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great.
Yes, it's been planted.
Where is it?
It's, you know where the new playground is?
Yeah.
And where the timber structure is?
Yeah.
It's like right
Oh,
in front of it.
it's one of those. Right.
Yes,
Oh,
and then there's two old trees
Yeah.
that Matthew planted,
okay. Okay,
and then a new box elder tree
okay,
that is part of phase. Right, so there's 4 trees.
okay.
planted in front of the thing. And then Natalie left, so we'll move on to Park and Rec Department. Director's Report.
All right, I just have 2 quick items. We had rain sensors installed on all of our irrigation control boxes.
Yay.
Yes, so we're pretty excited about that because we were having to have our on-call staff come in to turn the sprinklers off when it was raining, and it always rains in the evening. So these sensors will save our team a lot of time, and they're also just efficient. So when it starts to rain, the sprinklers won't activate. It's basically the really simple way that they work. So those have been installed. So the last meeting, I was asked to get quotes for what it would cost to hybridize the tennis court. No one has gotten back to me on that. I reached out to 5 different companies. So just a quick Google, it says it's gonna be $250 to $600, depending on how much they have to clean the court before they add the additional striping. So as soon as I get an actual quote from one of these companies, I'll send it out to PARAB, but I don't have any solid numbers right now for that project. But that was something I had 3 pickleballers email me about.
And I've
They're-
heard, and I've had more pickleballers ask me about it.
I have seen people playing tennis though. I
Yeah.
really have. Every time I go by, I look and I do see tennis players.
Yeah.
I agree. So
I sort of feel like there should be that for the tennis people. I know we need more pickleball courts, but I really feel like if we do the pickleball courts on their tennis courts, then I don't feel like they're gonna really feel like they're getting kicked out or intruded on, encroached on. But
Just another thought,
yeah,
because I don't disagree with you on that to a point. But I have a lot of manitoids that come to play, including our mayor and his wife, and they come at 7 o'clock because they can't get on later. Because there's a guy named Red that comes over with his gaggle of 20, and so they monopolize the 2 courts that are there, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but there's a lot of grousing from manitoids about not being able to get on. Even when they paddle up. And if Colin was here tonight, I think he would say he's joined a club elsewhere because he can't get on when he wants to play in Manitou either.
and Anthony is in favor of keeping it a tennis court. He wanted me to interject that too.
Sure.
I mean, because then the pickleballers would be on the tennis courts. Right?
Yes, yes. What we need are more pickleball courts, but we can't do that. I'm just telling you what the grousing is about.
Sure,
Yeah,
okay. Alright, what was that price, 600 you said?
well, that was
Okay.
just me Googling. It's $250 to $600. It's on the higher end if they have to really clean the court
Yes.
super well before they
1200.
put the lines down.
Double.
Yeah, probably, honestly.
sounds like for future thinking, if we have the opportunity to redevelop anything in the future, sounds like pickleball should be at the top of our list.
Well,
At least to consider.
What
yeah,
about behind middle school? That's too hard, cause it's, you know.
Yeah.
The insurance, the
Well-
public use of that.
I mean, yeah, that's a wonderful idea. And anyway, that's a separate conversation.
I know.
It's unfortunate that it occurred to you, but
We keep.
redeveloping,
But
But re-
which,
yeah,
but we don't.
redeveloping that area is part of the ongoing.
Right.
Like bond evaluation discussion, so
Oh,
if that's something that passes, that may be an opportunity for discussion.
As
Okay.
someone who walks over at Fields at least twice a day, I'd say the proportion of people playing pickleball to tennis, maybe once a week I see someone playing tennis, but more like once every 2 weeks or 10 days. And I'm not there all the time, so I understand that that's not, it's an anecdotal response. Another location could be on the far west side of Fields Park, where those power segments are and where they dug up a bunch this last year and then reseeded it.
That's gas lines runner. That's utilities. Gas
Right,
line.
but west of there.
Well, it's worthy of a discussion.
Yeah, that's just an idea because they have a place, the pickleballers have a place to park and they can walk down and play
Yeah.
pickleball there. But it's all coming down to money.
That's correct, yeah. Okay.
I do have one more item. So speaking of money, I was asked to ask PARAB if the city could find the money to do the sod phase of phase 3 for Soda Springs Park, would PARAB support that project this year? And I'm asking because it would mean more construction in Soda Springs Park this year, which I pretty much told everyone we weren't gonna have any more construction in that park in 2025.
Yeah.
But I was asked to ask if the city was able to acquire the funds, would PARAB support the sod phase this fall of Soda Springs Park Phase 3? Or the alternative is just wait until next year, or whenever we have the funding for phase 3 as a whole.
I'd say wait until next year. It's been disrupted for so long.
Well, it would be awesome to get that done, but.
Yeah.
The park right now is so vibrant. It just, it's, the use is tremendous and, I mean, I don't know if that'll drop off in the fall when school is back in session, but for right now, at least, it's really nice to have it activated.
I agree.
I agree. I mean, it's tempting, but so many people are so sick of the construction.
Well, I kind of thought it was gonna happen when they did everything else. But it didn't, so.
No, the sod phase is part of the 3rd phase,
And
the entire east side of the park.
once we get the construction documents back, we'll know approximately how much that's gonna cost.
Yeah.
So at least we'll have some better numbers to work with.
Yeah, how much of the park would actually have to be impacted with that?
For the sod phase?
Yeah.
That whole area from the pavilion.
The area,
Yeah,
yeah,
and probably.
Uh.
I mean, just to keep people, imagine where we had to fence it out.
See, now that side area we also has path pressure fines, so we have to
Yeah.
like do the concrete burden between the side areas. And in
Next
order to
year.
know. Yeah, let's do next year.
Okay, alright, you told me that.
I think it'd be nice to, but.
Yeah.
I'm deferring to what they say. I do have a question though about the pressure fines. Path, is it gonna connect to the bridge by Mate? Cause it's kind of weird right now, the way the pressure
Let
fines.
me tell you why.
Yeah, tell me
Because
why.
we were running into problems with the grade from the bridge coming across the pavilion and trying to marry up with that pressure fines path. To make it ADA accessible, it was gonna be a huge problem to deal with.
now they might be able to do it from the east side.
Yeah.
They might be able to connect from the
Yeah.
east side. The issue with connecting from the west side, they would have had to take out that tree. That big, I don't know if it's a cottonwood or a willow, but the one that kind of leans over the pavilion.
Yeah.
Because they would have had to grade it to make it accessible. So we rerouted that path to go to the front of the pavilion and set at the side.
Right.
For phase 2.
And then we would have had to probably like demo the path going down the pavilion. Try to, fix the grade there, and then I think there were some utilities that run across that bridge.
That area was very tough to navigate.
Yeah.
But the
Side.
east side, I think we will be able to
Yeah.
connect to the bridge.
That would be more.
By the way, let me just say that it is so nice to have the concrete areas connected finally, that I didn't even notice the different concrete color. It's so nice.
Yeah. Okay, come on, let's move on, guys.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, all right, thanks, Julia.
Yep.
All right, moving on to new business, we have a memorial bench request from Greg Di Fiore. And to make note, that's his name is spelled correctly, it's DIF with an I, and then an ORE. Greg Di Fiore. He has requested a memorial bench for his recently deceased wife. And she was part of the Manitou Springs Garden Club. So he wants to put a bench at Mansions Park. And so I met him there. And I suggested that we replace one of the existing old benches that's sitting right by the fountain. With his new memorial bench, and he was excited. Yeah,
That's a great.
yeah, so.
I think that's great.
Yeah, so we'll be replacing the old wooden bench with your
Okay.
recycled material benches, like we have.
When did Tanya die? I missed
Tanya passed, I think it was a couple months ago.
Yeah, it was pretty recent.
Yeah, and her son did that beautiful sculpture, in honor of, I forgot his name, but the Manitou Community Foundation bought it. And the sculpture sits behind the Chamber of Commerce. It is
Wow.
so cool. It is, it used to be in,
Oh, that just-
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I just noticed that the other.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful. Well, anyway, his son.
Well, I'm sorry to hear Tanya died, and I think it's great that we have that bench.
Yeah, okay, so I went ahead and got with, I'm in the process of getting that ordered, I haven't heard back from her yet, so, is everybody okay, does everybody approve the memorial bench location? At,
Yeah.
Mansions Park?
Yes,
Which the old one, okay,
Yeah.
all in favor, aye.
I,
Good, all right. Other business, our secretary, Candace Craig, is requesting a leave of absence for the summer. Because she's working and doesn't have time to attend our meetings, let alone do our minutes. And so, first of all, are you all okay with granting her the leave of absence? Well,
You should have it.
no. It was like. She just said summer.
Okay. Did we, I forget now, did we do something very specific for Colin? I'm just in terms of consistency.
Yes, I had asked for his leave of absence, or he asked us if he can take a leave of absence, he asked me, which we all.
just a
concurred.
point of privilege. She's an alternate, so that's different than a regular member.
That's correct, that's correct,
Okay.
but I'm just covering the base here.
Oh, sure, I was just bringing it up, I didn't recall if there were any specific requirements that we had set for that in terms of time or reporting or something else, I just wanted to make sure that we applied things with this. If not, then
Which brings us up to the next point, which is we don't have a secretary to take minutes. So, would anybody like to volunteer? Now, here's the other thing now, the city clerk. The city clerk office has been diligently working to. Make all of the minutes and all the agendas be a very uniform.
Format.
You
Format.
and accessible, like online accessibility.
Yeah, so now. The format of the minutes have to be very formal. Councilwoman Grow made the motion to blah blah, and then it's very, I mean, it's doable,
Sure.
but whoever. Wants to be our secretary would have to download the template that Alicia has so graciously provided for us. So would anybody like to take minutes for the summer? If not, we'll take it to the next meeting and I'll ask when there's more people there.
Can I ask a question? Do we get any like do we get any transcription support through our recordings?
PARAB doesn't right now,
We don't have funding for it.
because you do have a secretary. Other boards are a little different, so OSAC. OSAC, I guess contracts out their minute recording, so.
Because in their budget, they had to put in the line item to pay somebody to do that.
Right,
Well, and I mean,
so they listen to the recording and do the minutes from there.
Right. Where, but before they had a volunteer who was doing the minutes for OSAC and also. Yeah,
Barely, they never had anybody who wanted to do it, which is why they ended up. Somebody.
right, which where PARAB is at too, huh? Maybe. So, all right, well, let's well, I'll table that for our next meeting discussion.
Okay.
Okay. Uh. Okay, now we get to our budget portion of our meeting. I went ahead and kind of went through our budget and kind of. Just picked out sort of the main big line items that we usually kind of work with. So the first line item would be professional services. So I put in $65,000 for construction documents for Higginbotham Flats. Now this is for 2026. And maybe this is a good time to talk about what projects PARAB would like to take on for 2026. And possibly 2027, like the 1 year to 3 year kind of plan. Cause what we have going on right now is Soda Springs Park. And Higginbotham Flats, and those are probably the two biggest projects that we have going on right now.
I'm curious about another big project that could be on the horizon, which could be the. Dillon Mobility Hub connecting to Fields Park with activating the creek area. Just because, I mean. If that bridge is built,
Although that's kind of out of our purview as to what we can do as,
okay, or so. Okay,
that would be more than parking.
it would have to be zone parks first, I guess. Okay, never mind.
But we can talk. Yeah.
Seems easier than Higginbotham.
Actually, the hardest part's done, got the master plan. The next phase would be the construction documents, and then we would know what kind of money we'd be looking at. To try to build it out.
is this the right time to do that, or? I mean, I know we're getting close, we've had previous. I think gentle suggestion from council that. They're interested in entertaining another huge project until Soda Springs is totally finished. So, I mean, I guess my interest would be timing. What we're doing for Higginbotham with the end of that, so that we don't go so soon that things need to get redone. You know what I mean, by the time that they're ready for that, it seems like there's a time limit.
Well, if we have plans made up and then.
Well, let's see, we make plans. And then it's a few years before they're ready, and it's a few years before they're ready to do things, and then. Who knows what changes, and then that money needs to be spent the second time in order to update construction documents or something. You think so?
My concern is if we don't continue on soon, we'll lose any kind of momentum and it'll die away.
Well, talk to us about Soda Springs Park.
So this year, we're getting the construction drawings done. We offered the contract to HCM, the consulting company who did the first two phases and the construction administration. So we do have it in the budget this year to pay for the construction drawings. And I don't know what will be approved in our capital improvement fund for next year as far as actual construction. So And it's a high dollar project. It's the entire east side of the park and the sod area on the west side of the park. And some improvements to the interior of Bud Ford Pavilion and the exterior, because we're doing the drainage. Issues that are happening. So that's where, I mean, that's a $500,000 project. So that'd be outside of the scope of PARAB, but I am kind of looking at this.
And what's the time frame?
I don't think it's.
It'd be shorter than the playground construction. That's purple, Julian. Wait, I don't think so.
Can you promise that?
No, I'm not promising that, but.
In terms of keeping momentum going. You know, on the one hand, I don't want to spend all of our effort and money now. And then have, you know, the interest drop off, and then by the time we finally get to a point where the city's, I'm talking about Higginbottom. You know, cause I think what we need to do, like. You know, dirt isn't gonna get turned over on Higginbottom until Soda Springs is finished.
Not necessarily.
Well, that's what council's told us before.
Well, the council doesn't have the money to make phase 3 happen in Soda Springs Park.
Okay, there are some what ifs,
But here's.
but the instruction that we've had to date is that we're not interested in starting a new project until this is finished. That's what we've heard, and so. We don't want to let this die. Like, what do we need to do to keep, like Jan said, keep the momentum going, but we don't wanna do too much too soon. And then we trail off and we're not, you know what I mean? We want a drumbeat, we want activity, we want this to be meaningful. We don't want it to tail off and then we get and then it gets lost.
Okay, so let me ask you
Right.
this, what do you wanna do for 2026? For Higginbottom? No, in general. In general. And including Higginbottom. I mean, if we're not gonna focus on something. If we're not gonna focus on our,
Have some ideas?
okay.
Well,
I mean, with where we're at now in our phase, because what Jan is saying and what you're saying about momentum. We can do the construction documents this year for Soda Springs Park, but then for next year, I've set aside the money, 65,000. To do the construction documents for Higginbottom Flats, so that conceivably could be our next project for 2026.
So you're saying put it in a pipeline format, basically?
Yeah, would be, yeah, just keep moving on it. Not just because we have the money, if you guys approve of the budget. Now, there's no guarantee it'll come in at 5,000, but start. Yeah. And just like with Soda Springs Phase 3. We get the construction documents this year, but there's no guarantee that construction is gonna happen in 2026 because of the funding. Where's the funding gonna come from? But if we keep moving on Higginbottom Flats with construction documents with 65,000 to start with, it's a place to keep kind of rolling. And then if we don't do that, then I'm asking what you guys like to focus on. Because this construction documents will be done for Soda Springs Park Phase 3, but then it's the piece of coming up for the funding.
right,
Which is the same for Higginbottom, but first. We have to do the construction documents, which we have a little initial seed money set aside for that.
Jillian, do you have an idea about the percentage of likelihood that phase 3 for Soda Springs will get done next year? Or started?
I know city council wants it done, and I'm feeling pretty positive about putting it back in the capital improvement plan. It's already in the capital improvement plan, but of course it needs to be reapproved this budget cycle coming up. So I'm pretty positive that phase 3 is going to get completed in 2026.
So can you put the budget, well, you won't know what dollar amounts to allocate until we get the construction documents, which will tell you how much phase 3 is projected to cost.
We already have that. We already have an estimate from Horde Copland Mott, who did estimates for each of the phases.
Yeah.
Everything's gone up at this point because those estimates were compiled in 2022. But we have a ballpark, and that's what I've been using for our plan so far. So it'll be on the SIP that I pitched in October.
$500,000,000?
About. But then it'll be done. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the angle. It's finished Soda Springs Park and
And the current city council members really want it done. It's,
I think so. That's what I'm hearing.
But so here's the question though, is can we do both? I mean,
What do you mean?
well, I mean, like, can we move forward with starting to work on the construction documents for the flats? While the city figures out where the money's gonna come from to do phase 3? Cause what are we gonna do while the city council's trying to come up with the money? You know what I mean?
Well, maybe let's talk about what other things we might be interested in.
Well,
And then let's come back and figure out how those things would be impacted by that. Because I agree with both of you, we need to keep momentum going. I don't know how much money we have to throw at it to keep enough to keep momentum going, but so that we are ready. We are ready to step up and spend and have time when that moment, you know what I mean, presents itself.
well,
We're not quite there yet, but we need to keep the momentum going, and I think we made great progress this last year.
so construction documents for flats, once we have a price, then we can start looking for grants.
well, that's what I was just gonna say, is that Manny had mentioned that there's all these grants available. But you know, we'd have to keep the ball rolling.
That's true.
I'm also
And
thinking, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Well, is there a way that, and I hate to think of it, but with Higginbotham, when they do the construction documents, could they do it in 2 phases? So we could maybe get part of it done and then part of it finished so that everything wouldn't hinge on one big dollar amount.
Yes,
I'd like.
I like that idea too, Jen.
phasing seems to work for us.
Phasing is good, and I think, cause I've been thinking about Higginbotham too, and inspired by some other projects that I've seen going on, over at Concrete Coyote, they have a big hugel culture project going on, which I know that's not in our master plan specifically, but in order to grow trees and plants up there, I think that doing something like that could be really beneficial because it basically creates a big sponge.
What is this?
It's called hugel culture.
How do you spell that?
Hugel.
Okay.
It's German.
Okay.
But go over to Concrete Coyote and check it out. They're growing fruit trees, and it was like a concrete. It was like an old parking lot before, you know.
Okay, let me,
So anyway,
let me
so
go back on track
phased
here.
phased
Phase, yeah,
documents.
yeah, but are you guys okay with 65,000?
Yeah.
Allocating 65,000?
Well, what else?
Wait, Tim,
What else?
about what
What
else?
other things? What other things might be on the list that might impact that? 'Cause I think we need to balance this with. Well, for me, doing some small things that we can go start to finish on in a short period of time. Yeah, let's see what else we have here and then figure out how we're gonna allocate.
Line 2, memorial trees, benches, replacement costs, I have $5,000. And that's to replace any memorial trees that die or benches that get damaged. Item 3, pool and recreation, I have in here for playground equipment. Because Jillian had asked that perhaps maybe we might be able to spare some money for playground equipment. And since my senior fitness stations are coming to fruition or happening, I figured like we could maybe put some, if you need it.
We definitely need it.
Now,
Where are we?
So it's not new equipment, it's replacement equipment. We have several playgrounds that need some help. So for a good example, like our number one thing right now is that AstroTurf that's in the playground at Shriver, the big fish, that needs replaced.
are you kidding? That costs so much money.
It does.
It's like $30,000.
Well, we're pricing it out now and we're seeing if we could even replace it with regular mulch.
Yeah.
Playground mulch, you know, the right shrub depth. It's just old. The tests we do for playground inspections, it's passing, but it's kind of barely passing.
That's great. So we can wait, let's buy time and wait.
But, so that's an example of a playground item that needs replaced. The slide in Maple Willie.
Actually, I use that park a lot, and hardly any kids ever play in both of those.
Oh,
equipments.
I've seen kids there.
And
No,
Yeah.
in Maple Willie.
Oh,
the
and Maple,
slides- Maple Willie, the slides.
I don't know about Maple Willie. I haven't been up there in a while.
They're plastic, you know, but, you know, then they have one slide goes like, and then it goes straight and then go, you know, so like you don't slide, you sort of kind of, so if he wants to replace that with a regular slide that goes all the way down. I could see that, but they don't look in disrepair or damaged or anything,
This
so.
is based off of our regular playground inspections that the city hadn't done for a while.
Okay.
But we are doing monthly now. We've been doing them monthly for the past couple of years. And if we know there's a safety issue, we can't let it persist. So we're good now. Our playgrounds are fine. But they are falling into disrepair in some areas. That's why we took out the slide in Soda Springs before the whole construction started. It was bad. And we didn't replace it because it would have been $9,000 to replace that slide
Yeah.
for it to be torn down again for phase 2 construction. Right. So I would totally support keeping this in here to do because we
Oh,
can
yeah,
use it.
Yeah, no, I'll keep it in there
But
because, you know, I know it's a backup for you guys, but I don't wanna just. If it's still working, you know, my thing is like,
Yeah,
let's.
we bring everything to you guys for
Yeah.
approval and do a formal request and everything, but it would be very helpful.
Sure. I just.
Keep it in there.
Yeah, I'll keep it in there, but I just was wondering, like, what the slides, what the, this report, they look fine to me.
I can send you our reports and Josh does a really good job of detailing what he finds, so.
And
And so you guys can see what a playground inspection report looks like, they're pretty expansive.
I bet they are.
If you go to the Citizens Academy, if they ever have that again, they have a demonstration of that. At least they did when I was in it last year.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna move on, you guys. Okay, item 4, the parks, I have $5,000. I'd like to use some of that money to repair or rebuild some of the little free libraries. And
Yes.
And then manage the repairs as needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 5, urban forestry parks, I have $10,000.
I'd like to add something to that. I think we should look for opportunities to build more fairy structures like the tree house on Memorial.
Build more what?
Yeah, I'm using the tree house in Memorial Park as an example. Where can we look, you know, for opportunities to create you know, more interesting, you know, structures like that. Yes, thank you, whimsical things. You know, that really, I think these are some of the things that I think make us different.
I agree.
And especially if if there are opportunities already at redeveloping some of the areas, whether it's a new access through, you know, Fields Park from the Dillon, or if we are, you know, maybe incorporated into a plan at Hiawatha, or we're looking at an opportunity to replace something in Maple Willie, or, you know, where can we have, and maybe art in the park might, you know, be something like that, and we don't have to do 5 things, it could be 1 thing. But maybe something that we try to identify as an opportunity each year to, you know, just do something interesting and fun.
It sounds like more partnership, Crane.
Well, certainly Crane is a great idea. I mean, they're interested in doing more work and they're great for putting out a call for artists. But I think on our end, you know, setting aside some funding and identifying a place where we can potentially add something like that is good. That's
And
my.
also fostering
Well,
with artists.
like, any idea like what would be a reasonable amount of money that's part of that art in the park? or? I mean, I really have no clue.
Let's start with the speed idea first. Grow it up.
Okay, yeah, let's think about it. Okay. Yeah, there is always next year.
And just a tidbit on the little libraries, the repair in Shriver was done for free. We had it done by the Fab Lab,
Yeah.
the after school club.
And that they originally did all of them.
But it's kind of a lengthy timeline, it's on the kids' schedule, which is fine, but so that could be, maybe we could have one redone by the Fab Lab next year.
Absolutely.
Cause I know the one at Memorial Park is missing a door.
Yeah, and at the actually I took the door, I was gonna fix it. And
Oh,
so-
you have the door.
I have the door
Okay.
at mentions.
Oh,
I took the door
okay.
for mentions for libraries, it's sitting in my,
Yeah,
gotcha,
Mansions is in tough shape.
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Did we get a new plaque for Mansions Fountain?
I met with Audrey and Mary about that. And my task is to figure out the wording that we want to put on the plaque based on, you know, the last stuff that I shared with you guys about Raul Menes, yeah. So I gotta get back with them, and then my next task is to look for perhaps a larger rock that we could mount the plaque onto, instead of just a little one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cause I'd like to get a bigger plaque that would kind of give a little bit more information, or I thought about, we could maybe do like just a stand-up stand, but it wouldn't look quite as organic.
Right.
So.
Okay.
So if you guys see any good rocks with a good flat side, you know, plaque would be mounted on.
Okay.
Okay, can I keep going? Alright, so parks, general repairs and maintenance, I have 35,000 in there for that. And that's for general repairs and maintenance.
Okay.
Okay. So that,
Do we spend all of that every year?
no,
I need to make more requests.
I'm talking to Jillian.
I know. And then are you good with leaving urban forestry in the parks, then they're at 10?
Yeah, because we're gonna need to prove these.
Right.
Or like well, you just said that Aaron took down that pine tree at Fields, yeah. Cause at Fields El Paso, we have extra money there for maintenance in the park.
Right, those big willows, or maybe they're cottonwoods as you're driving into fields, that's
Yeah.
next on our list
To prove,
to prune, they need it,
yeah,
for sure.
if you get an estimate, you know,
Yeah.
let me know and I'll run it by Becca. I'm sure that they get out of that. Or the URA, you could hit the URA, ask them. Cause that's in their district too.
That's a good point.
Cause they're- yeah.
Question, managed repairs, how far out are we spacing that?
The way I'm looking at it now is that when the need arises. That it needs to be repaired, fixed, that's when we should go ahead and set the money up to fund it, because. The current project now that we gave, what, $900 to, initially. Well, after the guy who's trying to fix it, after he cleaned it all up and then, fortified the structure. All the tiles didn't fit, so he had to like custom make every tile to fit the contours of the Manitou. With all of his new kind of reinforcement repairs. So it's turning into a much more complicated project than he
Okay.
thought.
Okay.
So my feeling is. When it breaks, then let's pay to fix it.
Okay.
But let's not jump into something that's gonna turn into like.
We're not delaying the repairs by basing that, are we? Okay. And then I brought this up to you the other day, the other thing that I just have been thinking about when walking the park for the shuttleboard courts in mansions. That get no use. I would love to redevelop that into something, something that people use or appreciate, rather than painted concrete that nobody uses.
That's a tough one, but I agree.
And then what's the issue of why people don't use the shuffleboard court?
It's checking out the materials.
Yes. And nobody having oversight over that, or nobody that we can like assign that oversight to checking equipment. So whatever we repurpose that into. You know. It's almost fun.
Well, it would either be something that would be
Bocce
BYO, right?
You
I
have
mean,
to-
nobody owns shuffleboard.
Equipment.
You know, equipment.
Oh, cheap, goes in. She had a group.
She had a group.
Yeah, remember that, Jan?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
She had a group of all shuffleboarders and they all brought their own shuffleboard equipment and played. Yeah. So
Back in the-
we could organize something like that.
Yeah,
could-
well, I mean, I want to use that space. I mean, right now, it's something that's extremely specific.
But there again, it's like if the equipment was there, people would use it. But then people would break it or steal it and then we'd have to replace it.
So we're right back that it's not being used.
Well, here's an idea. Okay, so I was thinking about the pool and the picnic tables outside the bathrooms. And that, I mean, maybe sometimes people use the picnic tables, but it's kind of, it could use a little sprucing up, right? What if you just made that into shuffleboard courts and then you check it out at the pool?
We
But-
were thinking of doing that with chess pieces also for the chess table that's in Shriver. Cause as long as the pool's open, yeah, we have someone at the front desk.
Yeah. And you could take collateral or
Yeah,
someone's
something
watch or whatever. So anyway, I mean, I don't know what we do with those tables, but or if you can sort of fit both or anyway, just an idea.
The tables we could spread out.
I love the idea of more rec. And if the pool is staffed, and that's something that isn't too much for the. Add to the staff or storage, we have opportunity to redirect recreation things to there where that supervision is actually present. I love it.
You know, one time when we were working with Roy, he was looking into like those rental machines.
Yeah.
Where you had the machines that had the shuffleboard equipment in there. And then you just pop in your credit card and then you could use the equipment. Okay, but
I remember, yeah,
that never came to fruition either.
I think it was like the tech.
Yeah, it's just,
The tech thing, it didn't work out, but
that's a possibility.
it does make more sense that. If there is something that's equipment, you know, that needs equipment in order to play, it makes more sense that it's at the pool. And it would be wonderful if the pool could be a summer, I mean, if we had some place that was a summer hub. For kids to go to, unstructured, walk up to a desk, can I have X, go out and do it with other kids. You know, mix around, do stuff. We didn't
even
really-
a basketball or something.
Right. I mean, I would love it if it was more central, like Memorial Park. And mansions, but it does definitely makes more sense because that's where our recreation staff are. Anyway, that would be a great idea, expanding recreation opportunities seasonally, not year round. But seasonally in Shriver. I think I told you, like, when I was a kid, we belonged to a neighborhood pool. And there was a municipal park next to it, and then in the summertime. The city would drop off a shipping container that was full of game materials, like caroms and shuffle and like bar shuffleboard and arts and crafts. And they had like two, you know, college age staff that were always there, and there was an activity every day. There was a craft every day, and then they just had stuff you could take out and play with in the park. So you could go from the pool to the park, back to the pool. To the park. It was great fun. But you know, we don't really offer kind of, you know, unstructured stuff that kids can walk up to and do.
So I have an idea about the shuffleboard.
Maybe not.
Okay, we're listening.
You need something.
I have an idea for the shuffleboard cart in mansions.
Yeah,
Could we repurpose it and maybe oh, what is that? Where the kids, I just had it in my brain. Hopscotch. And just haven't painted on the cement so we wouldn't have to bust up the cement. But it still could be something that kids could interact with when they're having picnics or something, or some kind of event in the pavilion there. At least they could have a direction to go to rather than the shuffleboard court that has no materials with which to do that. Or any other idea of some game you could do that could be permanently painted on the shuffleboard cement.
Now remember, Carol, we paid to have that repainted and restriped.
When was that?
That
that's
was
fine.
5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Something like that.
It was when Chris, what's his name, still worked for the city.
When Chiito was playing.
Yeah,
Yeah, gee. Yeah.
Before she
Well,
moved.
or maybe the next time there's a problem with that concrete, we think about tearing it out.
I don't know. I just thought as long as it's there.
Yeah, it makes me wanna like just get some equipment or something like that to utilize that. Well, since it's done.
Could be a kick-ass pollinator gardener.
Are you guys, really, you're back in here, getting late.
Yes,
So can I get a yay or nay to approve this proposed budget for 2026?
I
Yeah.
move that we approve that budget for 2026.
I second.
okay.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Alright. Okay, is there anything else?
Yeah, Jillian, is there a chance that Park and Rec could, especially in the summer months when it's hot, clean the trash cans and recycle bins more frequently? They stink to high heaven.
So Jan, we are cleaning them every Monday and Friday. We have our beautification crew. Those are our seasonal staff members. Each trash can, if anyone's noticed, is now numbered. If you look at the back of each of the
Oh.
cans downtown and in all the parks, they're numbered. So we have them on a cleaning rotation. We are doing our best. Those cans get very, very dirty very quickly. But we are, I promise
Okay.
you that they are in a rotation.
I just had to ask.
Yeah, they're smelly. They get really smelly, but I don't know how to prevent that.
No,
every weekend.
that's what happens with trash, and in the summer it's worse.
Yep.
Let's be glad we have a dry heat.
Yeah, true. And grateful to have Jillian as in charge of our group.
It's not so much.
Thanks, Jan.
Okay,
Really quick update, Shriver Park restrooms, we have been running into plumbing issues since they were finished. We have figured out a solution that we can do in-house. It will be next week. So you guys have probably noticed we have a couple of portalets in the park. We have our facility staff making sure they're clean. So the new toilets, the water hookup, so the old toilets had a tank behind, or just like a regular house toilet, and that was fine. The new toilets have a tank behind the wall, and they actually take more pressure than the old toilets did. So the issue we're running into is we don't have enough water pressure going into the building, so we need to add a bigger line connecting from pool to Shriver Park restrooms, which we can do in-house. Our water division can do that. But we finally figured out the issue.
Isn't there like a thing that you add to like a jet thing or whatever, like to the actual meter, or you have to buy a special something for that?
So something like that.
Yeah.
So Kevin, our facilities supervisor, has been kind of spearheading this repair.
Okay.
I forget what that's called, but it's
I
something.
forget too, I said we are, and our HOA mandate, have to have device on our toilet. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
special kind of toilet, like ours is a regular tank.
Yeah.
It's not like in the wall, but it's still, it's a different, anyway,
Right.
like a jet engine.
So plumbing issues at Shriver Park, we are working on it, in case you guys get asked, those PARAB members. We definitely don't wanna have those,
They're really nice bathrooms.
they are, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, and putting the plumbing in the wall, that's the future.
Yeah.
That should be.
It makes them more vandalism.
Does, it does, and it adds more space to your, it also adds more space to the bathroom.
Cool.
So that's that update.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Can I move to adjourn meeting
Second.
for tonight? Is Tim seconds, right?
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Jamie.
See you next time.
Okay.
All right.